Welcome to Retro Scale Modelling. This is part 3 of Warslug's British Armoured Car. Scale is 1 to 35. In this part I'm going to be starting on this and making up the framework and hopefully putting other bits and pieces on. So let's jump into this and see how well I get on. So to begin with, I've got all the little parts laid out. These are all the support bars and axles to go on. Now, I always place these on one side first. Each one has its own designated location point. It's a fairly standard configuration, and there is really no issues whatsoever with it. There is one small little sub-assembly at this part, and that's the box that I'm making up here, and I just had the top on the box. Then once that was in, it was easy enough to fit the parts. This part here is painted in Tamiya's XF84 dark iron. It's a sort of canister thing. Now, I wasn't sure whether I should paint it now before placing it on or not. I didn't know how much room I would have at the end, so that's why I've painted it now. Once that was in, the next main part to go on, as I said, each one has its own location point. You'll, again, like everything, you'll want to study the instructions, because even though it's got its own unique location points, sometimes they're not exactly clear on the part itself, which area you should put in. The whole bar of this, there's tiny little marks all the way down it for each little thing to go in. So you can see there two of the remaining parts are going in. If you're placing them in like I am now, don't worry about getting them 100% straight, because they will all square up once I put the second half on. Now, I know some people will build this with the two parts, two beams straight away to line them up. I think that's wrong. It's so much fiddlier doing it that way. Just build up one side, then marry up the other side once everything is on. I thought it was worth noting here, the ejection mold pins are not thick, but there's a few of them, and where they are is quite delicate, so be very careful when you're taking them off and cleaning up any burrs. Now, if you are using a knife like I am, just be careful, because obviously you don't want to slip and cut your finger. But it is difficult to get a sanding stick in there as well to remove any excess plastic. So now I'm just going to marry these up, and I'm just lining up the offset. You can approach it just doing one bar or beam at a time, then moving on to the next. You shouldn't really have too much difficulty doing this. It just takes a little bit of patience, like everything in model building anyway. So just go down one unit at a time and get them connected. And once they're all connected, then you can start gently squeezing everything into position, either through tweezers or your fingers. This kit, though, comes with a jig. Now, it's on the clear part sprue, and the whole sprue is the actual jig. You don't have to take the clear parts off for this. Just make sure you haven't got any excess glue on the beams, or that will affect the clear parts, of course. But it sits on a little mount that the frame does, and you can line everything up that way. Now that everything's dry, and giving everything its first coat of River Color 39 dark green. And you really do need to paint these parts this time, because as you're adding things into this, you're not going to be able to get your brush in, or even your airbrush if you're using an airbrush. It's going to affect so many different parts, so it's best if you start painting the framework now. Here I'm using Tamiya's XF84 dark iron once more, and this is for the suspension leaves. Again, I think it's essential that you paint these now before you add any other parts to it. And this is why I generally paint a lot of things on the sprue as well. These particular suspension springs, though, they're part of the mold, so I didn't paint them beforehand. There are other ones that are not part of the mold that you add on. but just for ease and while I've got the paint, I decided to leave them out until I started painting these ones. About halfway down the beam, there's a little dot you have to paint, and this is Revit colour 92 silver. I have no idea what it's for, but it's only the one side that has this little dot as well. Here it's part 2 painting on the sprue, and I'm just painting this part with Revit colour 91 steel. And this is the other parts of the special, well, the other set. So it's onto one of the main platforms. This is for the flatbed part of the car. And as you can see, I've already pre-painted this with the main colour of Revit colour 39 dark green. First of all, you have to secure the framework onto the bottom of the platform. There are little location points. They were quite tricky to fit in, and I don't know whether it was me or it looked like it was warped slightly, so I had to use my clamps just to tie it down. And as you can see, I'm fitting this part, and that's painted in 08 matte black Revit colour. It's a little unit. It just sits on the corner there. It will be getting connected to other areas of the truck once it's all in position. And then it's just going over some of the beams and that, just painting them while I've got room to paint. And that's with the Revit colour 921 steel. And that's for all the axles and things like that I'm using this colour for. Now, I think it's also worth mentioning, it probably goes without saying, but the lines that are run through down each framework, just the that I'm painting here now, they're very thin and liable to break if you put any pressure on. In fact, I did have one that broke later on down the line. It's an easy repair, but just bear that in mind. They are very delicate. It's now time to fit the flatbed area. Now this should be fairly simple, but it can be confusing which part goes where. The lining up process was easy enough once I figured out how it goes on. Now it should fit tight onto the beam. Don't be afraid to push it a little bit firmly just for it to connect. But obviously be careful with the runner. This is where I broke it. I just slightly snapped it because I pressed down on the wrong area. Then once that was on and dried, and make sure it is dry before you do the next part, is the other half of the flatbed area. As you can see, it just marries up to the plate that I've already placed on. The beam should support it quite easily, and you won't need any clamps. So that only works though if the original bed is dry. So next is to placing all the other little support structures, and there's also little drive belts that I'm placing in also. Now I pre-painted them, so the main unit is Revit colour 91 steel, and for the belt it's life colour black rubber shades of tire black. Be very careful when you're fitting these. The instructions are detailed and you may have to study them a little bit more than normal to show that you know where your placements are going to be. One fits one way and the other one fits the opposite way, and there are location points for them. It's not tricky, it's just it's crowded in there, and you can quite easily put them in the wrong position. Next to go on is the part, I think this is part of the suspension and tension bars for it. They go on to the bolt steerer that I placed in previously, and the two ends get connected onto the main beam. There is two little location points that stick up for these to fit on. Again, it's essential that you get these in the right position for later on down the build. If you don't, it'll stand out, really stand out that you haven't got them in the right position. Once I'm satisfied that I had though, the suspension leads were a simple case of fitting on, and these location points are on the same area as the tension rods, but just on the other side. And the last part to go on is the axle for the front. Now this goes on the pre-molded suspension leaf, so there's two tiny little location points for it to sit onto. Well, that's it for part 3. I've just got a tiny bit of painting to do, and that'll be it. So if you haven't done so already, why don't you check out the channel for my other builds? Subscribe to the channel, make sure you hit that notification bell, that way you'll be kept up to date, not only with this build, but all my future builds as well, of course. Hit the like button, don't be afraid to leave a comment, and of course you can share the video. But for now, thank you all very much for watching, bye bye.